Clash at the Castle was the first pay-per-view in the UK in 30 years. The last before was SummerSlam 1992. As a wrestling fan growing up, it's something I've always wanted to actually see live. The WWE, it's never here. For it to finally come around after I finally got back into wrestling, because I went on like a hiatus for years. I was quite bored of it. I got back into it probably 6 months prior to Clash at the Castle coming around into the UK. When I hear that it is announced, I'm straight onto the phone to Jamie. It's a no-brainer. Of course we're going. We cannot miss what could be one of the last, but most definitely not now. We know that now. But at the time, we didn't know if this was going to be another thing where we wouldn't get one for another 30 years again and that we'd miss it. When it's announced, we know we're going to go one way or another. We'll figure a way out of getting tickets. Why is it a fever dream, you may ask, from the title? Because of the ending of it for me. Now, Clash at the Castle wasn't exactly hard for us to get to. It was a 4-hour drive. We could have got a train. We thought it'd be better to have a little road trip down there. It was like a 4 or 5 hour drive, I believe. Hit it all in one go. I think we had like one stop at a service station, maybe. Didn't cost a lot to get there. It was probably about 70 or 80 pound in petrol. The tickets we were very surprised with, but there is a reason why we got them for so cheap. I believe, from what I remember, cost us about 70 or 80 pounds. Straight away you may understand why that is, but we didn't actually get it because obviously we've never been to a pay-per-view before. Turns out it was £70 because we were at the very back of the stadium. Now, put this into perspective, the Principality Stadium in which Clash at the Castle was held is like a 70,000 seater stadium. We were at the back of a 70,000 seater stadium. Genuinely, compared to like American stadiums that I've seen photos of in wrestling groups, we didn't have it that bad at all. But I digress. Overall, the trip cost us probably £400-500 together in total, including like accommodation for one night. But we'll get to the accommodation later on. We make our way down there, park up, we just get changed into more comfortable attire and our wrestling merch, if you will. I don't think we actually had any, so that may be wrong. But quickly, this is the merch I got from Clash at the Castle. I was there. The date is the 3rd of September. I wish I would have got the one with Roman and Drew on the front. That would have been so much cooler. We're going. We know we're happy. We're excited. We get to the stadium. It's huge. It's a massive stadium. We see the banners on the walls for Clash at the Castle. We go in. We get a few drinks. Nothing too major because we're in a place we've not really been to before. We're in Cardiff. We sit down waiting for it to start. Jay has a few troubles with getting himself drinks, and at one point he tried to buy 2 drinks, but instead they couldn't give him any more drinks because the taps had ran out or something along those lines, like the kegs had gone, and instead they offered him a free hot dog, which he couldn't get and I had to go and get for him. Don't know how that happened. Anyway, into the actual event itself. We were supposed to be at the top. Now, this is where it gets really good for us. We went and sat at the top, realised people were in our seats, so we thought we'll just go to the left a little bit in a different seat at the back. We're literally at the very back. There is no one behind us. There's a wall behind us. About 20 minutes into the show starting, with all like the running of showing when it was last here in SummerSlam, with Brett like popping up because I think he was in the crowd, if I remember right. Within 20 minutes of the show starting, the people whose seats we were sat in by accident because someone had stole our seats and we didn't want to make a big deal of it, came up and made a big deal of it, of course, because they had to be that kind of person. But this worked so much into our advantage because obviously security comes up and says like, well, you're in this guy's seat, you need to move. And we said, well, someone's in our seat, where do we go? We told him, we showed him our seat number, and he didn't want to make a big deal of it, so he just told us to move down 1 row. So already we've upgraded. But once again, give it 5 minutes, the people that we were then sat in the seat came along and said, you're in a seat. The same security guy came, said, well, you're in the seat. Oh, I was like, dude, can you just put us in a spot where we're not going to get moved? And we literally got moved down one whole section. So we paid £70, so we spent £140 to get about £800 tickets. We were in such a better spot. It was still far away, don't get me wrong. In a stadium that big, the prices just fluctuates so much, it's ridiculous. Anyway, once we've got our great seats now, the show goes on. We're seeing awesome matches that we never thought we'd be able to see as wrestling fans because we didn't expect it to come to the UK. I'm going to skip through a few matches because there was a lot of good matches, but I'm just pinpointing why this was so good for us as people that have never been to a pay-per-view before. We'll just skip to Sheamus and Gunther. Straight away, I'm pretty sure this was actually match of the year. And to see it live and hear the slaps live was just, it was ridiculous. Such a good match. I'm happy I got to see Sheamus because as I was watching the wrestling, he was a big part of it. And getting to see him live was pretty cool in such a good match, not to mention. But we'll skip to Rey Mysterio and Edge against the Judgment Day. Two people I never thought I'd ever get to see. Such a significant pair of people that I watched growing up, and actually getting to see Rey live and hear the music live. Hearing their music live is just a different experience. And actually hearing Edge and everyone in the stadium singing along was insane. Literal goosebumps the whole time he made his entrance. Insane. And then not to mention, this is where Dominic turned heel. Being there for that live into what he's became now. Unreal. Doesn't seem real. Hence the fever dream aspect of it. Seth and Riddle match, it was a bit lackluster, but it was still cool to see Seth. Don't care too much about Riddle, but it was really cool to see Seth. The women's matchup, Damage Control, Bianca Belair, they pit up against each other in like a triple tag team match. It was cool. It was all right. And then you had Liv against Shayna. They were okay matches. I'm not going to complain. They were good. But then into the main event. I didn't watch the whole run of Roman over the 3 years. I only really caught up a few months prior to this pay-per-view, like I said. But this matchup, years later now, is still the only one where I genuinely thought there was a chance of Roman losing. Drew was on somewhat home soil, and it just set up for a massive spectacle, and you're expecting some insane change to happen. And it was such a letdown. It was such a letdown that it didn't happen. And so you could feel the air. It was all, you could cut the tension with a knife the whole matchup. You're thinking it was going to happen. Drew hits him with a claymore and you think he's won it, and then Solo makes his debut of what essentially is his character of helping Roman win for the next few years. So the pay-per-view as a whole was really good, and it was great to actually see it live. But now, after the pay-per-view, is where the fever dream aspect of it came into play. Great night. We had a great night. We had to rush back and get a train. I think it was, maybe it was the last train of the night. I'm not quite sure. But we had to get back to, I think it was Barry, a different place in Cardiff, or I'm not fully clued up in this area. But we had to get our train back to where we were staying. I don't know what time we got back, probably about 10 or 11 o'clock maybe. It was a blur. Went back to the room, tried to sleep. Jay went and slept on the couch because there was only one bed. When I tried to sleep, I had the most disgusting paranormal kind of experience in my life, and I don't even think of any of that kind of stuff. As I tried to sleep, I couldn't sleep. There was like some weird mirror up at the top of the room that was pointing up on top of the upstairs part of the bed. Why? Except for the feeling of something's watching you. I couldn't close my eyes without feeling like something was gonna touch me. As I felt like I fell asleep in my dreamlike state, I felt like I was awake still, and I felt this presence, and I tried to phone Jay. My phone didn't have a phone option. What's going on there? Anyway, fast forward, eventually I managed to phone him, and basically I cannot stay the night. We have to go back. He comes in, the brave soldier that he does, because the door opened inwards, so I felt like if I went out to go and actually tell him that we needed to go, I thought I was going to get like pounded up against the door and taken advantage of. So we leave, and I forget my shirt. I have to send Jay back to go and get it because I didn't want to leave my shirt there. Anyway, we drive back, like a 4 or 5 hour drive, whatever it was, back home, seeing all kinds of wildlife creatures in the middle of the morning. Deers everywhere, bloody badgers. I don't even know what we saw, but there was just eyes everywhere. And eventually, as we got out of Cardiff Way, I felt the presence like leave, which was, it was just so weird. Essentially, we drove to Cardiff and back all in one night one day without any sort of rest. It was an experience, that's for sure. For what was an incredible night of the wrestling, was just topped off with the most bizarre way to end it possible. I don't even know how to explain that feeling of being in that apartment house, whatever we were in. It was like an Airbnb, I think. But it was just awful. An awful way to end the night. I suppose it's a memorable way to end it because there's no way I'll ever forget that night because of what happened afterwards as well. Not to mention all the wrestling that happened. As far as pay-per-views go, I feel like it was probably one of the best possible ones to have over in the UK. Obviously, you could have asked for like different bigger names that used to be in the wrestling, but where were big names? Realistically, you had Seth, you had Edge, you had Dominic Mysterio, you had Rey Mysterio, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley was there, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre. It's a really good card that was on, and it was a really entertaining night. We wish we would have saw that they actually were doing like a week of activities with the wrestling there, but we only went on the day because we didn't realise. So we missed out in that aspect. It was just such a strange set of circumstances going on after the night happened. Such a good pay-per-view that I'm happy I was able to actually see live. I just wish I was like on the TV or something so I could just be immortalized in the WWE forever, you know? Anyway, that's about it. I'll probably do another one of these on my Money in the Bank experience. Random story time, I thought. Goodbye.